The bronze wind chimes swayed at the eaves. The breeze carried the warmth of late spring, yet it could not dispel the chill that had settled in my heart for half a month. I sat by the window, leafing through a book on arithmetic, when footsteps sounded outside the door, neither hurried nor slow, yet deliberately light and slow. It was Zhou Fu, the steward of the Marquis's household. Since I moved to this western courtyard, he had seldom set foot here. Today's visit was unusual. "Young madam," Zhou Fu's voice came through the curtain, devoid of much emotion yet lacking its usual deference. "The Marquis has a message for you." My fingertips traced the yellowed pages without lifting my gaze. "Speak." "The Marquis has set tomorrow as the day to bring Miss Lu into the estate by palanquin, to be named his secondary concubine." Zhou Fu paused before adding, "Miss Lu is the Marquis's childhood sweetheart. He says she has endured hardship for some time." "Lu Rumei?" I finally lifted my gaze. Through the half-drawn bamboo curtain, I saw Zhou Fu's hesitant expression, as if he wanted to say more. After half a month apart, Shenyanji truly hadn't disappointed me. Half a month ago, he claimed I was excessively jealous and intolerant of the concubines in the mansion. He had me moved from the main courtyard to this remote western annex. Truthfully, it was all because Lu Rumei had wept and wailed before him, claiming I mistreated the maid she sent. I couldn't be bothered to defend myself, nor did I have the energy to play his games anymore. So I went along with it, moving out to see just how far he would go in favoring her. Now the answer has come, taking her as a concubine, and doing so after only half a month apart, as if he feared Lu Rumei might fly away if he delayed a moment longer. I set down my ledger and walked to the curtain. Zhou Fu, seeing me emerge, instinctively took half a step back. Perhaps the calmness on my face surprised him. Any ordinary mistress, upon hearing her husband intended to take his childhood sweetheart as a concubine, would have been wailing and screaming, or even threatening suicide. But I did not. For 3 years since our marriage, I managed the household affairs of the Marquis's residence. I restored order to his financially troubled estates and used my substantial dowry to settle debts incurred from his early indulgences in pleasure houses. I believed that with united hearts, we could warm his affection, which had strayed toward Lu Rumei. Until 6 months ago, when Lu Rumei returned as a widow. Shenyanji lost his soul. He began staying out late night after night. Even when he returned, he'd sigh heavily at me, saying I wasn't as gentle as Rumei, didn't understand him like she did. I tried to salvage our marriage, but only earned his impatience. He said as the Marquis, I should be magnanimous, forgive and forget the moonlight in his heart. Looking back now, it seems utterly ridiculous. I understand. My voice was calm, as if I were discussing someone else's affairs. Tomorrow, at an auspicious hour, I shall have the east courtyard cleaned and prepared for Miss Lu. Zhou Fu froze, his mouth opening and closing as if stunned by my swift compliance. "Madam, are you not angry?" I smiled, though the warmth didn't reach my eyes. "The Marquis has found his true love. As his lawful wife, it is my duty to support him. There is one matter, however, that I must trouble Steward Zhou to convey to the Marquis. The young mistress may speak. Since Miss Lu has entered the estate as a concubine, she must observe the proper conduct expected of one in her position. The east courtyard may not be as spacious as the main quarters, but it is secluded and sufficient for her residence. Henceforth, I request the Marquis inform Miss Lu of the household's rules. Let her not breach propriety or disturb the peace of the Marquis's estate." My tone was level, yet carried an authority that brooked no argument. Zhou Fu hastily agreed, "This servant will remember. I shall relay this to his lordship at once." Watching Zhou Fu's hasty retreat, I turned and returned to my quarters. The moment I closed the door, the calm on my face finally cracked. A cold smile curled at the corners of my mouth. Accommodation? My accommodation, Shenyanji's accommodation, has never meant swallowing my pride. Shenyanji believes I cannot live without the title of Marquis? That I cannot survive without him? He is mistaken. Though my Shen family originated from merchants, we have never depended on others. I married him years ago, drawn by his youthful vigor and ambition. Now, he wallows in trivial romantic entanglements, cold-hearted and ungrateful. This title of Marquis holds no value for me, and this Marquisate holds no lingering attachment. I walked to the dressing table and opened the bottom drawer. Inside lay 10 shop deeds, my dowry from years past. These 10 shops span the capital's most prosperous districts, yielding substantial annual profits. They are precisely what Shinyenji has coveted all along. Out of marital loyalty, I never once considered selling them off. I even instructed the shopkeepers to divert some profits to subsidize the marquisite's expenses. But now, since Shinyenji could be so heartless, why should I keep these things to line his pockets? If Lu Rumei wants to be the mistress of the Marquis's household, I'll see if it can remain as splendid as before without the support of these shops and my management of the household finances. I picked up my brush and wrote a letter, summoning my trusted maid Qinghe. Deliver this letter to the Jiangnan Merchants branch in the southern part of the city tonight. Hand it to Manager Li and instruct him to bring the full amount of silver to the mansion by noon tomorrow, as specified in the letter. Qinghe, the maid I brought from the Shen household, was utterly loyal. Seeing my grave expression, she dared not ask questions and promptly nodded. Rest assured, miss. I'll depart immediately. Watching Qinghe vanish into the night, I walked to the window and gazed at the waning moon on the horizon. Tomorrow, Lu Rumei would enter the mansion. And I must plan my own escape route. Shinyenji, since you've chosen your childhood sweetheart, don't blame me, Shin Qingyan, for not cherishing our past. 10 shops in exchange for your utter disgrace, this bargain is quite profitable. Closing my eyes, I already envisioned Shinyenji's stunned and furious expression tomorrow when he led Lu Rumei into the deserted main courtyard. At this thought, I couldn't help but let out a low chuckle. The pent-up frustration of the past half-month finally dissipated by more than half. After Qinghe left, I sat by the lamp, waiting. My fingers tapped the table absently, keeping time with the occasional watchman's drum outside the window. I didn't sleep a wink all night. As dawn broke, faint footsteps sounded outside the courtyard. Qinghe burst in, her clothes damp with dew, her face a mix of urgency and excitement. Miss, Manager Li is here. He's waiting outside the manor gates with the silver. I rose and smoothed my robes, my expression still calm. Have him come to the side hall in the western courtyard. Be careful to avoid the other servants. Yes, miss. Qinghe replied and hurried off. Before long, a middle-aged man dressed in brocade robes and with a shrewd expression followed Qinghe into the side hall. It was none other than Li, the manager of the Jiangnan merchant caravan. Spotting me, he promptly bowed with clasped hands. Miss Shen, it's been an age. Upon receiving your letter, I gathered the silver overnight without delay. I gestured for him to sit. I've always trusted Manager Li to handle matters. When my father was alive, he shared a deep friendship with the owner of the Jiangnan Merchants Guild. Before my marriage, I assisted in managing our family business and dealt extensively with Manager Li. He fully understands the value of our Shen family shops and recognizes my urgent need to sell them now. Miss Shen mentioned in her letter that she wishes to sell all 10 shops together, at a price slightly below market value, a 30% discount. After taking his seat, Manager Li cut straight to the point, a hint of doubt in his eyes. Those shops are in prime locations with stable annual profits. Even at market price, there would be plenty of buyers vying for them. My offer to reduce the price by 30% was indeed unexpected for him. Correct. I nodded, but I have one condition: the transaction must be settled in full by noon today. The deed must be transferred, and the silver paid in full at once, not through the home mansion's accounts, but directly to my representative. Mr. Li pondered for a moment before laughing heartily. Miss, I accept your terms. I know the true value of these 10 shops. Even at 30% off, this is a surefire profit. But why the sudden urgency to sell, miss? His question was tactful, yet it struck at the heart of the matter. Having been married into the Marquis's household for 3 years, I had never once considered selling my dowry. This abrupt action was bound to raise questions. It's a family matter. No need to pry. My tone was cool and distant. Mr. Li, simply follow our agreement. After that, these 10 shops belong to the Jiangnan Merchant Guild. I've already instructed the managers of each shop to report to you starting today. Seeing my reluctance to elaborate, Manager Li ceased his inquiries. He retrieved a stack of banknotes from his traveling chest and placed them on the table. Rest assured, miss. The silver is all prepared, 50,000 taels in total. Please verify. I motioned for Qinghe to step forward and verify them. After meticulous inspection, she nodded to me, "Miss, the banknotes are in order." I picked up the 10 deeds from the table and handed them one by one to Manager Lee. "These are the shop deeds. Each specifies the address and boundaries. Verify them carefully." Mr. Lee took the deeds, examined each one, and after confirming they were correct, carefully put them away. "Thank you for your trust, miss. I will send people to take over the shops today. There will be no mistakes." "Very well." I stood up. "Ching-he, escort Mr. Lee out. Avoid drawing attention." "Yes, miss." Watching Mr. Lee hurry away with the deeds and his attendants, Ching-he closed the door and turned to me, her eyes filled with worry. "Miss, are we really selling all the shops? What about our future?" I cut her off, picking up the banknotes from the table. My fingertips traced the cool paper. "This silver will be enough for us, mother and daughters, to live comfortably. We might even start a new business. Ching-he, you've been with me all these years. You should know I, Shin Ching-yen, have never been one to settle for less." Ching-he's eyes reddened as she nodded. "I understand, miss. Whatever decision you make, I will follow." I smiled, dividing the banknotes into 2 portions. Handing one to Ching-he, I instructed, "Go immediately to the Jinsha Manor outside the city. Deliver these 20,000 taels to Matron Zhang. Have her prepare everything in advance, wagons and horses ready. Wait outside the manor at noon tomorrow." "And what of you, miss?" she asked. "I must remain in the mansion to present Shinyanji and Lu Rume with a special gift." A cold gleam flashed in my eyes. "Go swiftly and return promptly. We have urgent matters to attend to afterward." Ching-he took the banknotes and nodded firmly. "This servant departs at once." After Ching-he left, I summoned my other 2 trusted maidservants, Wanqing and Shuaying. They too had come with me from the Shin household. All these years in the Marquis's residence, they had remained cautious and diligent, never once showing disloyalty. "Miss, you summoned us? Go to the storeroom and inventory all movable assets from my dowry, gold, silver, jewels, brocades, silks, antiques, paintings, and the furniture and ornaments I brought. Pack everything neatly," I ordered in a low voice. "Work swiftly and discreetly. No one else in the mansion must notice. When Ching-he returns, we'll transport these items out overnight to the estate outside the city." Wanqing and Shuaying both startled. Wanqing couldn't help asking, "Miss, are you leaving the Marquis's residence?" "Yes," I admitted plainly. "With Shinyanji taking a concubine tomorrow, there's no reason for me to remain here. These belong to my Shin family's dowry. Not a single item should remain here." Shuaying, ever steady, immediately assured me, "Rest assured, miss. We'll sort everything swiftly and keep this completely confidential. Remember, only my dowry. Not a single thread of the Marquis's belongings must be touched." I emphasized this specifically to prevent Shinyanji from later accusing me of embezzling the estate's wealth. "We've noted it." The 2 immediately turned toward the storeroom. Standing in the courtyard, I watched the sky gradually brighten, my heart feeling utterly clear. 10 shops had already changed hands, the 50,000 taels in silver notes were secured, and my dowry's movable assets were being packed up with urgency. "Shinyanji, you think marrying Lu Rume will fulfill your desires? You think I'll sob and beg you to change your mind? Everything I've done today is merely reclaiming what was always rightfully mine. Tomorrow, when you joyfully lead Lu Rume into the main courtyard, all that awaits you will be 4 bare walls. I'll be watching to see how you and your childhood sweetheart manage to establish yourselves in this Marquis's residence without my dowry's support, without the businesses I've meticulously managed." Soon after, Wanqing reported that the inventory in the storeroom was nearly complete and being packed. I nodded, urging her to expedite the process, then ordered provisions to be prepared in the kitchen. Today promised to be a busy one. As the sun climbed higher, the mansion stirred to life. Faint clamor drifted from the front courtyard, no doubt preparations for tomorrow's concubine-taking ceremony. I let out a cold laugh and turned back to my chambers. "Shinyanji, prepare well for your celebration. Tomorrow's surprise will be one you'll never forget." The packing had barely ceased when a maid's timid voice announced outside the courtyard gate, "Young madam, the Marquis. The Marquis has come to see you." My teacup paused midair, the warm liquid rippling with a faint wave. Xinyanji was a rare visitor. In the past half-month, he'd only sent orders for our separation and hadn't set foot in this western courtyard. His sudden arrival now surely wasn't out of genuine concern, but rather because he'd heard some rumor and came to probe me. "Let him in." I set down the teacup, smoothed my robe with a raised hand, my expression still calm. Soon, a figure clad in bright yellow stepped into the courtyard. Xinyanji wore his everyday robes, a jade sash cinching his waist. His features remained handsome, yet his brow bore an unmistakable trace of anxiety, tinged with a subtle hint of probing. His gaze swept over the disorder in the courtyard, several unsealed wooden crates piled in the corner, clear signs of packing, and his eyes narrowed slightly. "Qingyan, have you settled in well these past half-month?" He spoke first, his tone deliberately softened, as if he were still the husband who once held some affection for me. I rose and curtsied, neither humble nor haughty. "Thank you for your concern, Your Excellency. The western courtyard is peaceful, I've settled in well." He walked into the room and sat down, his gaze sweeping the interior before settling on the desk, where several unstowed banknotes lay, deliberately tucked beneath an old book, a corner peeking out. Xinyanji's gaze lingered, his Adam's apple moving, yet he did not ask directly. "I hear you sent people to the shops recently?" He lifted the tea Qinghe had served but did not drink, his fingertips tracing the rim of the cup. Was it that the household funds were insufficient, or had something happened at the shops? "Here it comes." I sneered inwardly. So it was about the shops after all. He'd likely heard I'd sent word to the shops and couldn't sit still, fearing I'd touched the businesses he'd coveted for so long. "Nothing major," I replied casually, picking up the embroidery hoop on the table and pretending to stitch as if nothing were amiss. "It's just been a while since I've managed the shops, so I asked the manager to report the accounts. Better to have a clear picture." A flicker of doubt crossed Xinyanji's eyes. "Just the accounts? What else could it be?" I lifted my eyes to meet his, a faint smile playing at my lips. "The Marquis is to welcome Miss Lu into his household tomorrow. The manor will surely grow livelier from now on. As the rightful wife," I continued, "I can't very well be seen as incapable of managing my own dowry." That would be laughable. These words seemed to strike a chord within him. His expression softened, his tone gentler. "Qingyan, I'm glad you think this way. As for Rume," he trailed off. "Her background is tragic, and she's my childhood sweetheart. I simply couldn't bear to see her suffer. Rest assured, even after she enters the estate, no one can shake your position as the Marquis's wife. I trust you, Your Lordship." I lowered my gaze, hiding the mockery in my eyes. "Miss Lu is gentle and charming, she will surely conduct herself properly. I have already ordered the eastern courtyard cleaned. Tomorrow, she may settle in peacefully. The house rules will be thoroughly taught to her by the matron stewardess. She will never be allowed to breach propriety." Xinyanji clearly hadn't anticipated my understanding. A hint of surprise flashed across his face before dissolving into relief. He likely assumed I'd ultimately cling to the title of Marquis's wife, unwilling to relinquish the glory of this estate. Even if discontent stirred within me, I'd swallow my grievances. "Qingyan, you truly understand the situation." He set down his teacup, his tone tinged with approval. "From now on, as husband and wife, we shall work together to manage the household affairs. Rume has a gentle and fragile nature, I ask you to bear with her." The Marquis jests. "Managing the household is my duty." My voice remained calm, though my heart was churning violently. United as husband and wife? He was united with Lu Rume alone. To him, I was merely an eyesore, a decoration he had no choice but to keep. He sat for a while longer, making small talk about trivial matters, his gaze occasionally drifting toward the packed wooden crates. I responded to his remarks without revealing anything about selling the shop or explaining what the crates contained. The hour was late, and I needed to return to oversee preparations for tomorrow. Xinyanji rose, his expression noticeably more relaxed. "If you require anything, simply instruct the servants. There's no need to inconvenience yourself." "Thank you for your concern, Your Lordship." I am quite well. I rose to escort him to the courtyard gate. Watching Shenyanji's departing figure, his upright posture carried a hint of lightness. Clearly, he was thoroughly satisfied with my performance and had completely lowered his guard. Qinghe approached me and whispered, "Miss, has the Marquis fully trusted you?" He didn't even notice the shop matter. He'd be delighted if I behaved myself. Naturally, he'd be willing to believe me. I let out a cold laugh. His mind is consumed with tomorrow's wedding to Lu Rume. How could he truly care about my actions? He merely fears I'll cause a scene and bring shame upon the Marquis' household. So what do we do next? Continue packing. I turned and walked back inside, my gaze unwavering. Come nightfall, I would secretly transport these items out. Shenyanji thought I'd swallow my pride? Thought I couldn't live without him? He couldn't have been more wrong. Tomorrow, I'll show him what it means to lose more than he gains. Wan Qing and Shuaying entered, carrying the last few packed brocade boxes. "Miss, all the movable dowry items are packed. 23 boxes in total, everything you brought from the Shen family years ago." "Well done." I nodded. "Qinghe, contact the carriages outside the city. After nightfall, transport them discreetly through the back gate directly to Jinxiu Manor. Remember, no noise along the way. No one must know these belongings came from the Marquis' residence." "Understood, mistress." Shenyanji's test ultimately came to naught. He believed I was still the Shen Qingyan of 3 years ago, the one who depended on him completely, willing to compromise for his sake. Little did he know that 3 years of marital affection had long been eroded by his repeated favoritism and indifference. Seated at the table, I picked up the silver notes. My fingertips felt icy. 50,000 taels, along with the packed gold, silver, jewels, antiques, and paintings, would ensure my future was free from want. It could even fund my comeback. "Shenyanji, go ahead and marry your childhood sweetheart. Tomorrow, when you enter the main courtyard I've emptied with Lu Rume by your side, I'll see if that smile on your face can hold." As night deepened, wooden crates were silently loaded onto a carriage and vanished into the thick darkness. The western courtyard gradually returned to stillness, as if nothing had ever happened. And I sat beneath the lamp, quietly awaiting the dawn of tomorrow. That day would mark Shenyanji's wedding celebration, and the beginning of my complete liberation from this Marquisite's shackles. The night spread like a heavy inkstone, staining the entire Marquis' residence with a deep, still darkness. Only in the corner of the western courtyard did 2 dim lanterns still glow, casting light on several hurried figures. Qinghe had returned, bringing news from the estate outside the city, and 3 unassuming green canopy carriages parked in a quiet alley beyond the back gate. Wan Qing and Shuaying, accompanied by 4 elderly servants brought from the Shen household, were carefully carrying packed wooden crates to the courtyard entrance. Their movements were as quiet as cats, fearful of disturbing others within the mansion. "Miss, we've nearly finished moving everything. The last 2 crates contain your jewelry and calligraphy scrolls. I will personally oversee their loading onto the carts." Qinghe reported in a hushed voice, her forehead beaded with fine sweat. I nodded, rising to walk to the courtyard entrance. My gaze swept over the familiar wooden boxes. Inside lay my dowry of rosewood furniture, the finest yun brocade and silk, the jewels my mother had bequeathed to me, and my father's collection of renowned calligraphy and paintings. Each piece represented the Shen family's heart and soul, the foundation of my confidence when I married. Now, I would take them all with me, leaving not a single thread or scrap for Shenyanji. Work faster. Everything must be loaded and gone before the hour of the ox. I instructed. "Have the guards at the back gate been taken care of?" "Rest assured, miss." Qinghe nodded. Nanny Zhang arranged for silver to be delivered to the back gate guards. They're currently dozing in the guardhouse and won't be patrolling. I gave a soft hum and turned to enter the main hall. The room stood utterly bare. The dressing table, 4-poster bed, and antique display cabinet had all vanished, leaving only stark, bare walls. Even the carpet had been rolled up, exposing the cold, bluish-gray floor tiles. This had once been my residence in the Marquis' mansion before I moved to the West Wing. The main hall had remained empty ever since. Now, I must clear out all my personal belongings from the western courtyard too, leaving only an empty shell. Walking to the window, I pushed it open a crack and looked toward the main courtyard not far away. It was brightly lit, and I could faintly hear the maids chatting and laughing. They were likely making final preparations for Liu Rumei's arrival tomorrow. Shen Yanji was likely keeping Liu Rumei company, relishing the joy of their reunion or planning her life within the mansion. He could never have imagined that the moonlight he longed to protect would soon step into a mansion I had emptied. He could never have imagined that I, Shen Qingyan, would sever all ties so decisively. "Miss, everything's packed." Shu Ying rushed in to report, her face tinged with nervous excitement. The carriage had already departed from the back gate, heading out of the city. I closed the window and turned to my 3 trusted maidservants. "We should start packing as well. Wan Qing, go fetch the orchid in my courtyard that mother planted herself. Leave the rest of the plants behind." "Yes, miss." Qing had gazed at the empty room and couldn't help saying, "Miss, this western courtyard now feels as deserted as an abandoned place. When the servants come to clean tomorrow, they might grow suspicious." "So what if they do?" I scoffed coldly. "By the time they realize, we'll be long gone. Besides, tomorrow the liveliest part of the estate will be the main courtyard. Who would notice changes in this remote western wing?" Shen Yanji's mind was consumed with the joy of marrying Liu Rumei, and the servants were all busy with tasks in the front courtyard. No one would spare a thought for me, the disfavored young mistress. By the time they discover I've cleared out all my dowry, it will be far too late. We packed our travel clothes and some essential silver into a small bundle. Wan Qing clutched the orchid pot, its leaves still glistening with dew, my sole lingering attachment to this marquis's residence. "Let's go." To the storeroom. I led the way out of the western wing, walking along the quiet corridor toward the storeroom. The marquis storerooms were divided into 2 sections. One was the public storeroom, housing the household's communal possessions. The other was my private vault, dedicated solely to my dowry. At that moment, the door to the private vault stood ajar. Inside, it was already completely empty, with only a few bare shelves standing forlornly. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air still carried the lingering scent of silk and perfume, the last traces of what had once been mine. After carefully inspecting the room to ensure no personal belongings were left behind, I closed the door with a sense of relief. "Miss, everything has been cleared out," Qinghe whispered softly. "MHM." I nodded, feeling no lingering attachment, only a lightness as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Emerging from the storeroom, the hour was nearing the 2nd watch. The mansion lay silent, broken only by the occasional call of the night watchman echoing through the empty courtyards. "Dry weather, beware of fire." We retraced our steps toward the western courtyard. Just as we reached the gate, a shadowy figure lurked furtively in the corner, seemingly peering at something. Qinghe immediately grew alert, stepping in front of me. "Who's there?" The shadow hesitated, then hurried out. It turned out to be Wang, the old maid in charge of sweeping and cleaning in the mansion, a woman who was always known for shifting her allegiance with the wind. Seeing us, panic flashed across her face as she stammered, Young mistress, this servant. This servant came to see if the light in the west wing is still on, to check if anything is amiss." My gaze swept coldly over her. The rules of this household dictate that after nightfall, each wing manages its own affairs. "You need not meddle. What are you spying on here?" Old Ma Wang's face drained white as she hastily waved her hands. "I wouldn't dare. I was merely passing by, just passing by." I understood perfectly well. She must have heard the news of the Marquis taking a concubine tomorrow and wanted to see what was happening on my side. If I were wailing and fussing, she could go to the front courtyard to claim credit. Alas, all she saw was an empty courtyard and our figures preparing to leave. "If you're just passing by, then leave promptly." My tone was icy, carrying an authority that brooked no argument. "If you dare breathe a word of today's events, I'll skin you alive." Old Mother Wang trembled violently, stammering, "I wouldn't dare. I saw nothing." With that, she turned and fled, her steps unsteady, terrified I might catch her. Watching her frantic retreat, Shu Ying gritted her teeth. "That old hag must be running to the front courtyard to tattle." "It matters not," I replied calmly. "Even if she speaks, no one will believe her. The entire front courtyard is preoccupied with tomorrow's festivities. Who would heed the ramblings of an old maid? Besides, by the time they do believe, we'll already be gone from the Marquis's residence." Qinghe nodded. You're right, miss. Shall we leave now? Wait a little longer. I gazed toward the horizon. The night was gradually fading, a pale dawn lightening the eastern sky. Once daylight came, we would depart openly through the main gate. I would make it known to all, Shen Qingyan did not flee in disgrace, but chose to leave this marquis's residence of her own accord. I would show Shen Yanji that his act of taking a concubine not only failed to subdue me, but granted me complete liberation. I will show Lu Rumei that the marquis she schemed so hard to obtain holds no value to me anymore. The lanterns in the western courtyard gradually dimmed as the light on the horizon grew brighter. Standing in the courtyard, gazing at the sky about to break, my heart felt utterly clear. Clearing the inner courtyard was merely the first step. Next would be the moment to witness Shen Yanji's downfall. As daylight fully broke, a deafening clamor of drums and music suddenly erupted outside the marquis's residence, disturbing the peace. I sat on a stone bench in the courtyard, watching Shuang pack the last few scattered belongings into her bundle. The music pierced through the courtyard walls, sweeping in with an almost deliberately ostentatious air of celebration. Miss, the Lu family has arrived. Qinghe hurried back from outside, her face full of disdain. They're putting on quite a show, hired a troupe to play along the way and are carrying over a dozen chests of dowry. It doesn't look like taking a concubine, it's more like marrying a proper wife. I lifted my teacup, gently blew away the foam, and replied in a level tone, Lu Rumei has always been obsessed with appearances. Now that she's marrying into the marquis's household as a concubine, she naturally wants to flaunt it, to let everyone in the capital know how much Shen Yanji values her. Over the past half-month, Lu Rumei has been relentlessly building momentum in the capital. First, she had her maids spread rumors in tea houses and taverns that I was intensely jealous, harsh to servants, and that Shen Yanji had separated from me out of sheer desperation. Then came tales of how she and Shen Yanji had been childhood sweethearts, deeply in love, and that if not for the Shen family forcing the marriage, she would have been the marquise long ago. Now that she was about to enter the mansion, her efforts only intensified. By custom, taking a concubine required nothing more than a small sedan chair carried through the side gate, no grand display was necessary. Yet Lu Rumei insisted on doing the opposite. Not only did she hire a drum and music troupe, but she also had the Lu family send over a dozen chests of dowry. They paraded through the main streets with gongs and drums blaring, as if afraid no one would know she was marrying into the marquis's household. How ostentatious! Wan Qing returned from outside, her face flushed with anger. I went to the back gate to inquire earlier, she said. I overheard commoners on the street discussing how you, miss, have fallen out of favor and been cast aside. They say Miss Lu is the marquis's true love. In time, they claim, the marquis will petition His Majesty to depose you as marquis's lady and elevate Miss Lu to the position instead. These rumors, I had already heard whispers of. Yesterday, Qinghe returned from outside the city and said such talk is everywhere in the capital. Some even embellish it, claiming I secretly sabotaged Lu Rumei out of jealousy, only to be discovered by Shen Yanji, hence my exile to the western courtyard, effectively banished. Lu Rumei certainly knows how to spin tales. I let out a cold laugh and drained my cup of tea. She'd love to see my reputation ruined so she could seamlessly take my place. Too bad she's miscalculated. I've never cared about such empty titles, nor about what others say. The position of marquis's wife has long been dispensable to me. The more she desires it, the less I want it. But these rumors are spreading like wildfire, how detrimental to your reputation, young mistress. Qinghe urged anxiously. If you ever wish to remarry or return to the Shen family, people will surely gossip. Why should Shen Qingyan care about others' opinions? I set down my teacup and rose, my gaze unwavering. Having resolved to leave the marquis's residence, I will not look back. As for reputation, the pure remain pure, the tainted remain tainted. The rumors Lu Rumei spreads today will be clarified by others in time. Besides, I hold the evidence of Shen Yan's favoritism toward Lu Rumei and his disregard for marital bonds, along with the deed for the sold shop. Should anyone dare to slander me with rumors in the future, I'll show them who the truly unworthy one is. You're quite right, miss. Qinghe nodded, the worry in her eyes gradually fading. Still, those dowry chests sent by the Lu family looked rather lavish, wondered what treasures they might hold inside. Merely trinkets, all show and no substance. I remarked indifferently, though the Liu family claims scholarly lineage, they've long since fallen into decline. What genuine treasures could they possibly possess? Those trunks are likely mere facades for outsiders, to make her marriage appear splendid. Just then, footsteps sounded outside the courtyard gate. The estate's matron steward stood at the entrance with haughty demeanor. "Young madam, Miss Liu's dowry has been carried into the estate. The Marquis sent me to ask if you wish to go to the front courtyard to see it." The matron had once been quite respectful toward me, but now that Liu Rume was about to enter the estate, she had changed her tune, her tone tinged with disdain. "Not necessary." My tone was icy. The commotion in the front courtyard was not something I wished to partake in. "Tell the Marquis I'm unwell and won't be joining the festivities." The stewardess curled her lips in obvious displeasure at my attitude, yet dared not say more. She turned and walked away, clearly annoyed. Watching her retreating figure, Shuang exclaimed indignantly, "These people are so opportunistic. Liu Rume hasn't even formally entered the estate yet, and they're already fawning over her. Who knows how they'll bully you, young mistress, in the future? That's precisely why I must leave decisively." I smiled. A marquis's residence like this, filled with such people, would only make one sick to stay. I turned back to my room and pulled a note from my bosom. It listed several names, all former subordinates of my father who now ran their own businesses in the capital and were trustworthy. "Qinghe, take this note to the cloth shop in the eastern part of the city. Find manager Lin and ask him to connect me with the people listed here." I handed the note to Qinghe, instructing them that Shen Qingyan would be leaving the Marquis's residence immediately. Should any business dealings arise in the future, I requested their continued support. These were men my father trusted in life. They had even come to congratulate me when I married. Now that I was establishing my own business, I would inevitably need their support. "Understood, mistress." Qinghe took the note and tucked it away carefully. "Wan Qing, go to the accounts office and collect this month's allowance." I added, "Though we are leaving, we must take everything that belongs to us, not a single coin less. Also, see if the accounts office staff are still as negligent as before. If they dare to withhold anything, name me directly and let them weigh the consequences." "Yes, mistress." The two hurried off, leaving only me and Shuang, who held the orchids, in the courtyard. The drum and music continued, mingling with the laughter and cheer from the front courtyard, sounding especially jarring. Liu Rume must be gloating right now, thinking she's finally gotten her wish, stepping through the gates of the Marquis's residence, poised to take my place. But she doesn't know that everything she schemed so hard to obtain has long been discarded by me like worn-out shoes. The main courtyard she was about to occupy stood empty. Shenyanji, whom she thought she could rely on, only maintained the dignity of the Marquis's residence through my dowry. The position of Marquis's lady she so coveted was nothing but an empty shell devoid of any real value. I walked to the corridor, gazing toward the front courtyard, my eyes filled with a cold, mocking smile. "Liu Rume, go ahead and gloat. Go ahead and flaunt yourself. Tomorrow, when you step into that empty main courtyard, when you discover Shenyanji's so-called affection crumbles before reality's test, then I'll see if you can still manage a smile." Before long, Qinghe and Wan Qing both returned. Qinghe reported that manager Lin had agreed to help make connections and was ready to follow my instructions at any time. Wan Qing said the accounts clerk dared not withhold the monthly allowance and had obediently handed it over, though her gaze held a peculiar look. "Let it be peculiar. We won't be staying much longer anyway." I took the monthly allowance and casually handed it to Shuang. "Keep it safe, it might come in handy someday." The sun climbed higher as rumors in the capital continued to ferment, and Liu Rume's campaign grew increasingly absurd. Whispers even circulated that Shenyanji had petitioned the court to strip me of my title as Marquis's lady, though his request remained unapproved due to the Shen family's influence. I remained utterly indifferent to these claims. Rumors were just rumors, they couldn't amount to anything. What I needed to do now was prepare thoroughly. Tomorrow morning, I would take my people and my silver and leave this suffocating Marquis's residence for good. Liu Rume, Shenyanji, your grand show was about to begin, and my new life would start with it. The noon gong had just sounded when the kitchen delivered a lunch that turned one's stomach. A bowl of cold, coarse rice topped with 2 plates of bland greens, barely a drop of oil in sight, and a bowl of congealed meat broth emitting a faint, fishy stench. Chingha slammed the tray onto the stone table, her eyes red with anger. Miss, this is outrageous. Back when we were in the main courtyard, every meal had 3 dishes and a soup, with a balanced mix of meat and vegetables. Now they dare serve us this? It's downright insulting. I picked up my chopsticks and tried a bite of greens. The taste was dry and bitter, hard to swallow, clearly the kitchen's lowest grade ingredients. No need to get angry. I set down my chopsticks, my expression calm. They know Lu Rume will enter the manor tomorrow. They've seen my influence wane and now dare to treat me with such disrespect. These past few days, the servants' attitudes have quietly shifted. Maids and matrons who once treated me with utmost respect now either bow their heads and walk around me or avert their eyes. Even when serving tea or water, their gestures feel perfunctory. The servants responsible for sweeping the west courtyard and preparing meals had become especially brazen. Once ever ready to serve, they now frequently made excuses, claiming the front courtyard was too busy preparing for the concubine's arrival, or that the steward had ordered them to prioritize Miss Lu's needs. Yesterday, when Wan Qing went to the accounts office to collect her monthly allowance, she returned furious. She said the accountant made all sorts of excuses, claiming the household was tight on funds and that the young mistress's expenses would be cut back for now, with arrangements to be made after Miss Lu entered the household. In the end, he gave her only half the usual amount. It's not just food and monthly allowances. Wan Qing fumed. Just now, I went to the storeroom to request charcoal. Winter fuel should be stocked well in advance, but Manager Lu said all the charcoal had been diverted to the east wing. He claimed Miss Lu is frail and sensitive to the cold, so we're supposed to make do for now. It's barely autumn, and they're already making us make do. Who knows how they'll mistreat the young mistress come the depths of winter. Shu Ying clutched the orchid, trembling with rage. These people are nothing but sycophants. Lu Rume hasn't even formally entered the household yet, and they're already fawning over her. Once you, young mistress, are in the mansion, won't you suffer even more injustices? Injustices? I, Shin Qingyan, have never suffered injustice in my life. A cold gleam flashed in my eyes as I rose. Qinghe, I said, fetch Zhang Ma, the steward in charge of the western courtyard. Yes, mistress. Qinghe answered, her footsteps brimming with anger as she left. Soon after, Zhang Ma strolled leisurely into the courtyard. She was a veteran of the Marquis's household, having served under me before. She'd always been fairly well behaved, but now she'd changed her tune. Her face showed little emotion, and even her bow was merely a perfunctory bend of the waist. Young madam, did you summon this old servant? Did you send these meals? I pointed at the lunch on the stone table, my tone icy. Zhang Ma's eyes flickered before she replied, Madam, the entire household is currently occupied with Miss Lu's arrival. The kitchen is understaffed, and ingredients are prioritized for the front courtyard. I'm afraid you'll have to endure some inconvenience for now. Everything will return to normal after tomorrow. Inconvenience? I scoffed coldly. Zhang Ma, you've served in the home mansion for 10 years. You should know the rules of this household. I am the Marquise's legally wedded young mistress. Even residing in the western courtyard, I am not to be slighted by a mere stewardess. This food is fit for servants, yet you bring it to me. What are your intentions? Mother Zhang paled but persisted. Please calm your anger, young mistress. This old servant only follows orders. Master Li from the front courtyard said that Miss Lu's arrival is a major event. Everyone in the household must prioritize her needs, while your side should be spared where possible. Master Li? I raised an eyebrow. How dare he bypass me and dictate my provisions? Young madam, the entire Marquis household now knows that Miss Lu is the Marquis' favorite. In the future. Zhang Ma trailed off, her meaning clear. What happens in the future? I pressed her relentlessly. Does she replace me as the Marquis? Mother Zhang, you overestimate her and underestimate me, Shin Qingyan. I rose and stepped before her, my gaze sharp as a blade. Let me ask you this, the Shin family is vast and wealthy. My dowry alone could sustain half the marquisate. Every meal you eat, every garment you wear, every item you use, does any of it not bear the Shin family's mark? Now that Lu Rumei is entering the manor as a concubine, you've forgotten who truly rules this marquis's residence, who provides your monthly allowance. Zhang Ma was rendered speechless by my words, her legs trembling slightly, yet she remained stubborn. Young madam, this old servant was merely following orders. Please do not blame me. Following orders? I snorted coldly. What a fine excuse. Today I'll teach you what rules are, what hierarchy means. Turning to Qinghe, I ordered, Qinghe, fetch my token. Summon every steward in the manor to the front hall. Tell them I have urgent announcements. Qinghe froze, then a flicker of excitement crossed her eyes. Yes, miss. Zhang Ma's face paled. She grabbed Qinghe's arm urgently. Young madam, you mustn't. The marquis is preoccupied with Miss Lu's affairs. Summoning the stewards now will surely anger him. And what if it does? I replied coldly, I am the marquis's wife. Summoning the household stewards is entirely proper. Zhang Ma, you collude with stewardly, neglect your duties to the mistress, and skimp on expenses. Today, I shall deal with you properly. Ignoring Zhang Ma, I turned and returned to my room. I changed into the marquis's wife's formal attire and adorned myself with the phoenix hairpin. Though I hadn't worn it in a long time, it still radiated an undeniable air of authority. By the time I reached the main hall of the front courtyard, all the stewards, both senior and junior, had gathered, including stewardly of the front courtyard. Shen Yanji was absent, likely accompanying Lu Rumei. Seeing me in my formal attire and stern expression, the stewards grew uneasy, lowering their heads and avoiding my gaze. I took my seat at the head of the table, my gaze sweeping over the assembled crowd. I have gathered you here today for one purpose only, to rectify the conduct within this household. I pointed at Zhang Ma and Steward Li, who stood trembling at the edge of the room. Zhang Ma, as steward of the western courtyard, has neglected her duties to the mistress, delivering only cold leftovers and scraps. Steward Li overstepped his authority, embezzling my provisions to favor a concubine who hasn't even entered the manor yet. Tell me, is this how a marquis's household should be run? Both turned ashen-faced and immediately knelt to beg for mercy. Spare us, madam. We were momentarily confused and won't dare again. Momentarily confused? I sneered coldly. You're merely shifting allegiances, forgetting your duties. Though I, Shen Qingyan, reside in the West Wing, I remain the young mistress of this marquis's household. You have no right to humiliate me. I turned to the other stewards. I shall not pursue further accountability for today's incident. But let me make this clear, if anyone dares to neglect the mistress again, or curry favor with others, do not blame me for showing no mercy. With that, I instructed Qinghe, take Zhang Ma and Stewardly away. Each shall receive 20 lashes and be expelled from the marquis's residence. Their positions shall be filled by loyal servants. Yes, mistress. Zhang Ma and Stewardly were terrified out of their wits, wailing and begging for mercy, but Qinghe and several loyal old servants dragged them away by force. The other stewards, witnessing this, held their breath in terror and knelt in unison. This humble servant dares not. We shall behave ourselves and obey the young mistress's commands. I waved my hand. Rise. Return to your duties. Remember today's lesson. The stewards scrambled to their feet and hurried away, none daring the slightest disrespect. Upon returning to the western courtyard, the kitchen had already sent over a fresh, steaming meal, 4 dishes and a soup, a balanced mix of meat and vegetables, even more refined than usual. The maid delivering the food kept her head bowed, not daring to breathe loudly. She set down the dishes and hurried away. Miss, you're truly formidable. Qinghe exclaimed excitedly. Those stewards and servants will never dare to neglect you again. This was merely a warning to others. I said calmly. Today's events have made it clear who truly stands by me and who merely seeks favor with the powerful. I turned to look at the maids and matrons standing in the courtyard, all servants originally assigned to the West Wing by the Marquis's household. After today's incident, fear clouded their faces, though their eyes betrayed different emotions. If any of you feel wrong serving me and wish to join Lu Rumei instead, step forward now. I won't stand in your way. I'll even provide severance pay so we can part ways amicably. I declared. No sooner had the words left my mouth than 3 maids and 2 matrons stepped forward, heads bowed, eyes averted. I nodded, instructing Wan Qing to distribute silver to each of them. Take this silver and leave the home mansion, I commanded. Take care of yourselves from now on. They accepted the silver, murmuring thanks before hurrying away. The remaining servants stood firm, unmoving. Those who choose to stay will not be treated unfairly, I assured them. I looked at them, but let me make this clear. Should any of you dare betray me in the future, your fate will be far worse than Zhang Ma and Manager Li's. We dare not. We shall serve the young mistress with unwavering loyalty. The remaining servants immediately knelt to pay their respects. I motioned for them to rise, my mind already made up. These loyal servants would leave the Marquis's residence with me. If they wished to join my business ventures, I would provide for them. If they preferred to return home, I would give them ample settlement funds. As the sun set in the west, the western courtyard gradually returned to calm. After today's disciplinary measures, the servants dared not neglect me again. The front courtyard also sent word that the charcoal and monthly allowances had been replenished, ensuring tomorrow's arrangements for Lu Rumei's entry into the mansion would not affect my expenses. But I knew this was merely a facade. What they feared was not me, Shen Qingyan, but the identity of the Marquis's wife. Once I leave the Marquis's residence, these servants will inevitably flock to Lu Rumei. But none of that matters anymore. Tomorrow, I will depart this Marquis's residence that has chilled my heart forever. Today's sorting and dismissals merely clear the path for tomorrow's departure, allowing me to leave cleanly, without a single lingering attachment. Shenyanji, Lu Rumei, if you desire this marquis and these sycophantic servants, I shall leave them all to you. I shall take only what belongs to me, and those who have been truly kind to me. As night deepened, I sat in the courtyard, gazing at the stars on the horizon, my heart serene. Tomorrow is the day I reclaim my freedom. After sending off the last group of servants who wished to leave, only Qinghe, Wan Qing, Shuaying, and 3 elderly retainers remained in the courtyard, Uncle Wang, Aunt Chen, and the young maid Chen Tao. Their gazes were resolute, without a hint of wavering. I returned to my room and dragged a heavy wooden chest from beneath the bed. Opening it, I found the remaining 300,000 taels in silver notes, along with scattered gold and silver ingots. These were the proceeds from selling off my shops, the foundation for my future. Come in, all of you. I called out to the courtyard. The 6 entered the room one by one. Their eyes widened at the sight of the chest filled with banknotes and precious metals, yet none dared to ask questions. I picked up a stack of banknotes, roughly 50,000 taels, and handed it to Uncle Wang. Uncle Wang, you served the Shen family for over 20 years, then followed me when I married into the Marquis's household. Your loyalty has been unwavering. This 50,000 taels is your settlement money. Uncle Wang waved his hands hastily, his eyes reddening. Miss, this old servant cannot accept it. I followed you not for silver. Wherever you go, this old servant will follow. I pressed the banknote into his hand. But I cannot let you suffer hardship either. Take these 50,000 taels for now. If you choose to leave the Marquis's residence with me, whether to manage the country estate outside the city or join me in business ventures, I will ensure you are well provided for, with your monthly allowance doubled. If you wish to return to your hometown to live out your days, this sum will suffice for a comfortable retirement, free from want. Old Wang clutched the banknotes, his lips trembling, unable to speak. He could only wipe away tears. I then picked up another banknote for 30,000 taels and handed it to Mother Chen. Mother Chen, you've cared for my daily needs for so many years, always attentive and thoughtful. These 30,000 taels are your settlement. Likewise, you may choose to follow me or return home. Madame Chen's eyes also reddened as she choked out, Miss, your kindness to this servant is as deep as a mountain. I wish to follow you wherever you go and serve you faithfully. I then turned to the young maid, Chen Tao. She was the youngest, only 15, personally chosen by me after I married into the Marquis's household. She had a pure nature and had always been utterly loyal to me. I handed her a banknote for 10,000 taels of silver. Chen Tao, you are still young. Keep this 10,000 taels of silver safe. If you choose to follow me, I will teach you to read and write, and you may assist me in managing my business in the future. If you wish to find a good family to marry into, this silver can also serve as your dowry, ensuring you never suffer hardship. Chen Tao took the banknote, tears falling as she knelt with a thud. Mistress, I won't marry. I'll stay with you. You've been so kind to me, I'll serve you for the rest of my life. I helped her up, then gave Qinghe, Wanqing, and Shuing 5,000 taels each. You three are the ones I trust most. Keep this silver well. We'll work hard together in the days ahead. You've earned every bit of it. Qinghe and the others protested briefly, but seeing my firm resolve, they accepted the notes. I know you all treat me with genuine kindness. Looking at the six before me, a wave of warmth washed over me, the only warmth I'd felt in 3 years at the Marquis' estate. Tomorrow I would leave for the Jinxiu Manor outside the city. Wang Bo, with your experience, you will accompany me to the estate tomorrow and manage its affairs. Chen Ma, you will oversee our daily meals and living arrangements. Chun Tao, you will assist Shuang in learning to manage the accounts. Qinghe and Wanqing, you will follow me and help expand our business in the future. Yes. We will obey your instructions, miss. The 6 answered in unison. Now, let us plan tomorrow's schedule. I said in a solemn tone. Tomorrow, when Lu Rumei enters the mansion, chaos will surely ensue. We will depart through the main gate amidst the confusion, no one will stop us. Wang Bo, go to the back gate early tomorrow morning to contact the carriage sent by Nanny Zhang. Have them wait in the alley near the main gate. Chen Ma and Chun Tao, pack our travel clothes and essential items, nothing must be left behind. Qinghe, Wanqing, and Shuing, the 3 of you stay by my side in case anyone tries to stop us. Understood. After making these arrangements, Uncle Wang and the others departed to prepare. Only Qinghe and I remained in the courtyard. Miss, are you truly resolved to leave through the main gate tomorrow? Qinghe sounded concerned. What if Shenyanji or Lu Rumei's people try to stop us? They won't stop us. I smiled. Tomorrow is the joyous occasion of Lu Rumei's entry into the mansion. Shenyanji is filled with delight and won't care where this disgraced young mistress goes. As for Lu Rumei, she'd be delighted to see me leave sooner rather than later, so she can monopolize the Marquis' residence. Naturally, she won't interfere. Besides, I am the Marquis' legally wedded young mistress. As long as I don't provoke trouble, no one dares openly block my departure. Then what will happen to the Marquis' residence after we leave? Wanqing asked curiously. It would descend into chaos. A cold gleam flashed in my eyes. Shenyanji would be furious when he and Lu Rumei stepped into the empty main courtyard. He would discover I had not only cleared out my dowry from the main residence but also sold off 10 shops. By then, his and Lu Rumei's comfortable life would surely come to an end. Without my dowry to prop it up, the Marquis' household will instantly find itself stretched thin. Though I manage those estates efficiently, their annual profits pale in comparison to the shops. They're nowhere near enough to sustain the Marquis' extravagant lifestyle, let alone Lu Rumei's love for pomp and luxury. That's truly satisfying. Shuang exclaimed excitedly. I smiled but said nothing. I sought no revenge, only to reclaim what was rightfully mine and live the life I desired. The fates of Shenyanji and Lu Rumei were choices they made themselves, no one else bore blame. As night deepened, I sat alone in the empty chamber. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting a cool, pale glow upon the blue-gray floor tiles. I recalled the day 3 years ago when I married into the Marquis' household. Under the same moonlight, Shenyanji rode a tall horse, dressed in bright red wedding robes, personally coming to the Shen residence to fetch me. Back then, his eyes held tenderness and anticipation as he told me, "Qingyan, for the rest of our lives, I will treat you well." Now, looking back, those vows were nothing but illusions, fragile and easily shattered. 3 years of marital affection were ultimately wasted. But I have no regrets. This experience has shown me the true nature of people and taught me that a woman must ultimately rely on herself, never depending on anyone else. I rose and walked to the window, gazing at the moon hanging over the horizon. Tomorrow, I will leave this Marquis' mansion that has imprisoned me for 3 years, to pursue my own freedom and happiness. The Jinxiu Manor is vast, with fields, land, and several shops, enough for us to settle temporarily. I hold 500,000 taels in banknotes and the connections my father left behind. Restarting a business will not be difficult. I will open shops throughout the capital, surpassing my former success, proving to all that Shen Qingyan, upon leaving the Marquis' estate, did not fall into ruin but instead lives a more splendid life. As for Shinyenji and Lu Rumei, they may continue their charade of childhood sweethearts and mutual affection within the Marquis's residence. But without my dowry, their little play will likely become more chaotic and less romantic. A resigned smile touched my lips. I would wait quietly for tomorrow. The show was about to begin. The drum and music reached their peak at noon, their thunderous beat making the window frames in the western courtyard tremble slightly. Standing beneath the eaves, I gazed toward the front courtyard, where crimson silk ribbons danced through the air amidst the bustling crowd of guests. Shinyenji had indeed granted Lu Rumei ample dignity. Even as a concubine, her ceremony was staged with such grandeur, no doubt intended to proclaim to all in the capital the esteem he held for his childhood sweetheart. "Miss, the bridal sedan has arrived at the gate." Qinghe rushed back, her face lit with the excitement of a spectator. The Marquis himself lifted the sedan curtain. Lu Rumei, dressed in a water-red concubine's gown and veiled in a crimson head covering, was carefully assisted down by the Marquis. She clung to him as if she could barely bear to be parted. I gave a faint, indifferent my heart utterly unmoved. Such a scene had long been within my expectations. Shinyenji's partiality toward Lu Rumei had never been concealed. The guests in the front courtyard were all cheering, saying the Marquis and Miss Lu were a match made in heaven, and even saying you were ungrateful and unworthy of the Marquis. Qinghe sounded indignant. Let them talk. I adjusted my sleeves. Soon enough, their laughter would fade. Just then, louder clamor erupted from the front courtyard, punctuated by the master of ceremonies' booming announcement, "The auspicious hour has arrived. Please, your lordship, take Miss Lu to the main courtyard to perform the concubine-taking ceremony." My heart stirred. I knew the main event was about to begin. Shinyenji was determined to take Lu Rumei to the main courtyard. That courtyard, once mine, was now his surprise for Lu Rumei, a way to make her shine before the capital's guests. But he didn't know that courtyard had long been emptied by me, its bare walls waiting to give him a huge shock. "Shall we go see?" Wan Qing suggested, her eyes brimming with anticipation. "No need." I shook my head. The spectacle would bring its own audience. We need only wait here and see how Shinyenji handles this. Sure enough, not even half an incense stick's time passed before the drumming and music in the front courtyard abruptly ceased. An eerie silence descended, followed by a deafening roar that pierced through the layers of courtyards, carrying clearly to the western wing. "Shinqingyan. Come out here." It was Shinyenji's voice, brimming with raging fury and a hint of disbelieving panic. Qinghe and the others exchanged glances, unable to suppress their laughter. "It worked!" Shuaying lowered her voice, her excitement palpable. The Marquis must have seen the empty main courtyard. A smile also curved my lips. "Shinyenji, at this moment, you must feel as if struck by lightning, utterly humiliated." Before long, a servant stumbled to the entrance of the western courtyard, pale-faced and gasping for breath. "Young Madam, the Marquis demands you come to the main courtyard immediately. He's furious." Understood. My expression remained calm as I slowly turned and walked back inside. "Qinghe, fetch me that stone blue everyday robe." "Miss, changing clothes at a time like this?" Qinghe looked puzzled. The Marquis is probably beside himself with rage. "We should hurry over. The more urgent the situation, the more one must keep one's composure." I sat before the mirror, letting Qinghe arrange my hair. I would face that furious man and his delighted childhood sweetheart with the utmost poise. Once simply dressed, I rose to leave, Qinghe and 2 attendants following close behind. Along the way, I passed numerous servants looking flustered and guests whispering in small groups. Their faces bore confusion and curiosity. Clearly, they too had sensed something amiss in the front courtyard. Earlier, when I passed the main hall, it was completely empty. Not a single table or chair remained. The floor was bare, even the carpets gone. How could this be? Wasn't the main hall already cleaned and arranged? Who knows? When the Marquis entered just now and saw that state, his face went pale. He flew into a rage on the spot, demanding to settle accounts with the young mistress. Could it be? The young mistress did this? The murmurs reached my ears, but I paid them no heed, continuing to walk forward with steady steps. By the time I reached the main courtyard gate, the atmosphere had thickened to a standstill. Shenyanji stood in the empty courtyard, his bright red wedding robes now strikingly jarring. His face was ashen, veins bulging on his forehead. His gaze was sharp as a blade, fixed intently on the empty house. His chest heaved violently, clearly seething with fury. Lu Rumei stood beside him, her red veil already lifted, revealing a delicate face. But now, all traces of coyness had vanished, replaced by utter bewilderment and panic. She scanned the empty room, disbelief filling her eyes as she instinctively clutched Shenyanji's sleeve. The surrounding guests wore expressions of shock, their whispers growing louder. This. How could the main courtyard be empty? Indeed, where was the furniture? The ornaments? How could there be nothing? This was utterly bizarre. A perfectly good courtyard, how had it become like this? Spotting me approaching, Shenyanji whipped his head around, his gaze blazing like fire, fixing me with a stare that seemed to want to devour me whole. Shenqing Yen. What the hell is going on here? His voice was hoarse, brimming with uncontrollable fury, causing those nearby to instinctively step back. Lu Rumei also looked at me, a flash of venom crossing her eyes before she quickly masked it, adopting a tearful expression. Sister, what? What happened? How did the main courtyard become like this? Did the servants slack off and not have time to set it up? Her question was cleverly phrased, distancing herself while subtly implying my incompetence or deliberate sabotage. The surrounding guests also turned their eyes toward me, their expressions varied, some curious, some probing, others simply eager for a spectacle. I stepped before Shenyanji, bowing with neither humility nor arrogance. My voice was as still as deep water. Your lordship, what has provoked such fury? What? Shenyanji pointed at the empty room, his voice trembling. And you have the nerve to ask. Where are the main courtyard's furnishings? The ornaments? I had the servants clean and arrange everything in advance, preparing for Rumei to perform her rites here. Where did you take it all? Where? I smiled, but the warmth didn't reach my eyes. Naturally, I took back what was rightfully mine. What did you say? Shenyanji's eyes widened, clearly not grasping my meaning. Your lordship seems to have forgotten. My tone remained level, yet carried a thread of icy mockery. Everything in this main courtyard, the rosewood furniture, the antiques on the display shelves, the calligraphy and paintings on the walls, even the carpets on the floor, were all part of my dowry back then. They belong to the Shin family. Naturally, I have the right to decide their fate. Shenyanji's face instantly drained of color. He stared at me in disbelief. You moved them all? Indeed. I nodded, admitting it plainly. Not only the items in the main courtyard, but also my private possessions in the western wing and my 10 dowry shops, all have changed hands. Now, not a single thread or shred of anything belonging to Shenqing Yan remains in this marquis's residence. Boom! The sound reverberated like thunder cracking through the crowd. The guests were stunned, whispering among themselves, their faces frozen in shock. What? She sold all 10 shops? Good heavens! Those are prime properties in the city's busiest district, worth a fortune. What is the young mistress up to? Could she be seeking a divorce from the marquis? No wonder the main courtyard was so empty, she'd moved all her dowry out. Shenyanji staggered, clearly reeling from the news. He glared at me, his eyes blazing with fury and disbelief. Shenqing Yan. Have you lost your mind? Those shops are your dowry, they're the foundation of the marquis's estate. How could you just sell them off? The foundation of the marquis's estate? I scoffed coldly. How amusing the marquis's words are. When did my Shin family's dowry become the foundation of the marquis's household? If I hadn't used my dowry to cover your massive gambling debts back then, if I hadn't managed those shops to continuously funnel silver into the marquis's household, wouldn't this place have fallen into ruin long ago? My voice wasn't loud, yet it reached every ear clearly. The guests' gazes instantly turned ambiguous, their eyes on Shenyanji now tinged with contempt and scrutiny. Shenyanji's face darkened further, a mix of shame and fury. He pointed an accusing finger at me, yet no words came out for a long moment. You. Lu Rumei also lost her composure. She clearly hadn't anticipated things turning out this way. She had believed she was marrying into a mansion of wealth and prestige, never imagining I would take all my dowry with me, leaving the main courtyard completely empty. She tugged at Shenyanji's sleeve, her voice trembling with tears. "Your lordship, what? What are we to do now? We can't possibly perform the ceremony in this empty courtyard, can we?" Her words jolted Shenyanji back to reality. He drew a deep breath, forcing down his rage, his eyes darkening as he fixed them on me. "Shinqingyan, I don't care where you've hidden those things, bring them back immediately. Today is the day I marry Rume. If you dare to ruin it, I will not forgive you." "Forgive me?" I laughed, a laugh that knew no bounds. "Shenyanji, on what grounds would you spare me? You wish to marry your childhood sweetheart, I won't stand in your way. You wish to treat me with contempt, I've endured it. But you expect me to leave my dowry behind, to serve as a wedding garment for you and your beloved? Dream on." I turned to face the assembled guests, my voice clear and resolute. "All of you are witnesses today. I, Shin Qingyan, declare plainly, whatever belongs to the Shin family, I may keep or take as I please. No one has the right to interfere. I've had enough of this marquis's mansion. Shin Yanji? I don't want him either. Today he takes his concubine, and I walk my own path. From this day forward, we owe each other nothing." With that, I turned away, refusing to look at Shinyanji and Lu Rume's livid faces or heed the whispers of the surrounding guests. I walked out. Qinghe and the others followed swiftly behind, their steps light as if a 1,000-pound burden had been lifted. Behind me, Shinyanji's furious roar echoed once more, brimming with unbridled rage and humiliation. "Shin Qingyan. Stop right there. Dare you try to leave?" I didn't turn back, merely waved a hand, leaving behind a resolute silhouette. "Shinyanji, Lu Rume, this empty main courtyard, this marquis stripped of its foundation, this is the congratulatory gift I bestow upon you. For the days ahead, may your affection run as deep as the sea. And may you continue to cherish each other dearly within this marquis, now stretched thin and struggling to make ends meet." My wrist was suddenly seized by a brutal force, the grip so fierce it nearly crushed my bones. I was forced to halt, turning to face Shinyanji. His eyes blazed crimson, veins pulsing violently on his temples. The golden threads on his ceremonial robes had lost their luster, scorched by his fury. His once handsome features were now twisted into a hideous grimace. "Shin Qingyan. You dare leave? Leave the items behind. Redeem the shop." His voice carried a hysterical madness, drawing surrounding guests closer, eager to witness the spectacle of a wife confronting her husband and childhood sweetheart. Qinghe immediately stepped forward to pry his hand loose, only to be violently shoved aside by Shinyanji. "Get out of the way. This doesn't concern you." Qinghe staggered back several steps. Wanqing and Shuaying hurried to support her, their eyes burning with fury, yet their status prevented them from intervening. Was the marquis about to resort to violence? I stared coldly at his hand gripping my wrist, my tone as still as a frozen lake. To lay a hand on your lawful wife in full view of these guests? If word gets out, wouldn't you become the capital's greatest laughingstock? Shinyanji's movement faltered, clearly mindful of the guests' gazes. Yet the pressure on her wrist didn't ease, instead, it grew more menacing. Lay a hand on her? Had you not acted unreasonably, emptying the main courtyard, selling off the shops, and shaming both me and Rume, would I have come to this? Shamed? I laughed, every line of my face twisted with scorn. When you decided to take Lu Rume as your concubine after our separation, hadn't even considered my dignity? When you let her enter the main gate with fanfare and drums, treating her like a proper wife, hadn't you thought of the dignity of the marquis's household? Lu Rume stepped forward, her eyes reddened as she clutched Shinyanji's sleeve, adopting a helplessly vulnerable demeanor. "Sister, I know you're unhappy, but how can you be so unreasonable? Those shops and furnishings are the foundation of the marquis's household. Selling them all, how will we manage here in the marquis's residence afterward?" Her words seemed like a plea, but they were actually implying I was selfish and reckless, disregarding the marquis's well-being while positioning herself as the victim. Sure enough, several elderly ladies unaware of the truth began whispering among themselves, their gazes toward me now tinged with reproach. The young mistress's actions are indeed inappropriate. No matter how angry she is, she shouldn't gamble with the marquis's future. Yes, Miss Lu looks so delicate and fragile, it's rather pitiful. She's barely entered the estate and already faces such trouble. I cast a cold glance over the murmuring crowd, my gaze finally settling on Lu Rumei's face. Miss Lu, you are mistaken. Those possessions were never the foundation of the Marquis' estate. They were my personal property, Xin Qingyan's. The dowry my father gave me years ago bears my name on the deed. I may sell or gift them as I please, they concern neither the Marquis nor you. I wrenched my hand free from Xinyanji's grasp and drew a neatly folded paper from my sleeve, the sales contract for 10 shops. It bore both my signature and that of Manager Li, along with the official seal of the government, making it legally binding. Gentlemen, please observe. I unfolded the contract and passed it among the guests. This is the deed for the shops, transferred at noon yesterday with payment settled in full. It states plainly, the seller is Xin Qingyan, the buyer is Manager Li of the Jiangnan Trading Company. The authorities have filed it, legally compliant. The guests passed the contract among themselves. Upon reading its contents, the murmurs instantly shifted in tone. So it was the young mistress's personal property? Then she certainly had the right to dispose of it as she wished. The Marquis is utterly despicable. Separated for barely half a month and he takes a concubine? Who could possibly swallow that? Rumor has it the young mistress's dowry was substantial. These 10 shops must bring in a hefty profit each year. Hasn't the Marquis' household been relying on them all these years? Xinyanji's face flushed alternately pale and crimson. Snatching the contract, he glanced at it, trembling with rage. You actually sold the shops. Xin Qingyan, do you have any idea what these 10 shops mean to the Marquis' household? Without their profits, how will the household expenses be covered? The income from the estates is nowhere near enough. That is the Marquis' concern, not mine. I retrieved the contract, carefully folded it, and tucked it back into my sleeve. When I married into the Marquis' household, I brought a generous dowry to help you cover the deficits, manage the estates, and allow you to focus on your official duties in the former court and establish yourself in the capital. I believed that a united couple could earn your genuine devotion. But what of you? I stepped forward, my gaze sharp as a blade, fixing it squarely on Xinyanji. When Lu Rumei returned as a widow, you were distracted and stayed out all night. At her slightest complaint, you accused me of jealousy without discernment. When she sought to enter the household, you cast aside 3 years of marital bonds, hastily taking her as a concubine after merely half a month of separation. Xinyanji, you show me such callousness and ingratitude, yet still expect me to remain as part of your dowry, a stepping stone for you and your beloved? Where in the world is such justice found? I have none. Xinyanji roared back, his voice strained and lacking conviction. I never intended for you to be a stepping stone. I just couldn't bear to see Ruame suffer. As the Marquise, you ought to be magnanimous. Magnanimous? I scoffed. My magnanimity is not a license for you to push your advantage. Nor is my dowry a tool for you to curry favor with your childhood sweetheart. Xinyanji, search your conscience. In these 3 years, have I ever wronged you or the whole household in the slightest? My question left him speechless. His lips trembled, yet no rebuttal emerged. Lu Rumei, sensing trouble, tried to speak up again, but I shot her a glare that silenced her. Miss Lu, if you truly wish to behave properly, you should have kept to your place as a concubine, entering the mansion discreetly through the side gate, not with such pomp and circumstance, as if you were the legitimate wife being welcomed. You schemed relentlessly to take my place, to enjoy the splendor brought by my dowry. Alas, you miscalculated. I didn't. I'm not. Lu Rumei's face turned ashen, tears welling in her eyes, yet no one felt sympathy for her anymore. The gazes of the surrounding guests toward Xinyanji and Lu Rumei were now filled with contempt and ridicule. So it was Miss Lu pulling the strings behind the scenes all along, truly cunning. The Marquis is a fool, neglecting such a fine wife while infatuated with a woman like her. The young mistress did the right thing. A husband like that, a Marquis like this, she should have left long ago. Xinyanji stood at the center of the crowd, enduring pointed fingers from all sides. His face turned from pale to green, then to dark, the humiliation so profound he wished the ground would swallow him whole. He looked at me, his eyes filled with fury, resentment, and a barely perceptible flicker of panic. He likely never imagined that I, who had always been so restrained, would so decisively tear off the mask in such a public setting, leaving him utterly disgraced. Seeing his wretched state brought me no satisfaction whatsoever, only a profound sense of liberation and calm. Shinyenji, I began, my voice clear and resolute. Today marks the end of our marital bond. My belongings, I have taken them all, your marquise, your childhood sweetheart, they are yours. From this day forward, we are strangers, each to marry and live our separate lives. With that, I turned away, no longer looking at him or heeding the murmurs around us, and walked toward the manor gates. Qinghe and the others hurried to follow, their steps light yet resolute. Behind me, Shinyenji's furious roar, Lu Rumei's wails, and the guests' murmurs intertwined into an absurd farce. And I, at last, was stepping out of this prison that had confined me for 3 years, to embrace the new life that was mine. Shinyenji's rage exploded behind me, yet it failed to hold me back even an inch. My footsteps echoed along the bluestone pathway as I walked outward, each stride feeling like I was trampling upon 3 years of grievances and resentment. My pace was resolute and unwavering. Qinghe and the others followed closely behind, carrying simple bundles, their expressions filled with exhilaration. The guards at the manor gate froze when they saw me leading my people out. They instinctively tried to block my path, but Qinghe shot them a fierce glare. How dare you stop the young mistress from leaving? The guards, already aware of the commotion in the front courtyard, saw my calm yet commanding presence. Recalling my resolute stance in the main hall moments before, they dared not approach. They stepped aside in unison, heads bowed, not daring to utter a word. The moment I stepped through the mansion's gates, the afternoon sun bathed me in its warmth and brilliance, dispelling the last lingering shadow in my heart. Outside the gate, in the alleyway, Uncle Wang was already waiting with 2 green canopied carriages. Seeing us emerge, he hurried forward. Miss, everything is ready. Please board. I nodded and stepped into the carriage first. Qinghe and the others followed. The carriage interior was lined with soft brocade cushions, and there sat the pot of orchids my mother had planted, its leaves a vibrant green, full of life. Horse! Uncle Wang cracked his whip, and the carriage slowly pulled away, heading toward the city gates. I lifted the curtain and glanced back at the imposing gates of the Marquis's mansion. The red walls and green tiles remained unchanged, yet they held not a shred of lingering attachment for me. The carriage grew farther and farther away, the mansion's silhouette shrinking until it vanished at the end of the street. Miss, we've finally left that place. Qinghe exclaimed, her eyes slightly reddened with emotion. Yes, we've left. I smiled, my heart feeling clear and unburdened. From now on, I wouldn't have to live my life watching others' faces anymore. After an hour's journey, the carriage finally reached the Jinshe Manor outside the city. Nanny Zhang had already gathered the manor servants to wait at the gate. Seeing us arrive, she hurried forward. Miss, you've finally come. Everything in the manor is prepared. Come inside and rest. Following Zhang Ma into the estate, I saw neat courtyards and spacious dwellings. The grounds were planted with colorful flowers and herbs, the air filled with the fresh scent of earth and foliage, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere of the Marquis's mansion. Miss, you must be exhausted from the journey. Please retire to your room to rest. I'll instruct the kitchen to prepare a meal. Zhang Ma said respectfully. No need to rush. I waved my hand. Auntie Zhang, first show me around the estate. Auntie Zhang nodded and led me on a tour of the grounds. This Jinshe estate was purchased by my father years ago. It covers a vast area, with over 100 acres of fertile fields and several street-facing shops. Auntie Zhang manages it daily, yielding substantial annual profits. Miss, the estate's harvests have been consistently good these past years. The fertile fields are leased to nearby farmers, yielding 1,000 share of grain and rent each year. The 3 street-facing shops, one operates as a general store, while the other 2 are rented out, also bring in substantial annual rent. Nanny Zhang reported in detail. I nodded, my mind already made up. Mother Zhang, starting tomorrow, reclaim those 2 leased shops. I intend to manage them personally. Additionally, have someone contact Manager Lin in the capital. Ask him to inquire if there are any suitable shops for sale in the western part of the city. I wish to open another cloth shop. Miss intends to open another shop? A flicker of surprise crossed Mother Zhang's eyes before turning to delight. Wonderful! You studied business with father years ago, you'll surely make it thrive. Yes, miss. Qinghe chimed in excitedly. With your skills and the silver we have, we'll live 100 times better than in the Marquis' mansion. I smiled, my heart brimming with anticipation. With 500,000 taels in silver notes, plus father's network and business wisdom, starting anew felt entirely within reach. In the days that followed, I methodically began managing the estate and the business. First, I reclaimed 2 street-facing shops. One became a cloth shop named Brocade Pavilion, employing the finest weavers and embroiderers to sell premium silks and exquisite embroidered goods. The other transformed into a tea house called Breeze Pavilion, serving pastries and tea alongside its main offerings. Business gradually flourished. I also purchased a spacious shop in the western part of the city, opening a cosmetics boutique. I hired renowned cosmetics artisans from the south, whose blushes and face powders boasted vibrant colors and pleasant fragrances. From the moment it opened, it was sought after by the noble ladies and young misses of the capital. Qinghe, Wanqing, and Shuaying each took on specific roles. Quick-witted Qinghe managed the fabric shop's operations, meticulous Wanqing handled the accounts for the tea house and cosmetics shop, and dependable Shuaying oversaw procurement and client relations. Uncle Wang and Aunt Chen remained at the estate to tend the fertile fields and manage daily affairs. Chen Tao, learning bookkeeping from Wanqing, made remarkable progress. As days passed, my business flourished. The brocades from Brocade Pavilion, the teas from Breeze Pavilion, and the cosmetics from Rouge Shop gained considerable renown throughout the capital. Profits grew increasingly substantial, far surpassing the income from those 10 original shops. Occasionally, I would hear news about the Marquis' household from traveling merchants. I heard that after I left, Shenyanji and Lu Rumei had a hard time. Without the support of my dowry shops, the Marquis' household expenses quickly became strained. The rent from the farm estates proved woefully inadequate to sustain the mansion's extravagant lifestyle. Lu Rumei, with her penchant for pomp and meticulous attention to detail, soon plunged the household into a financial crisis. Shenyanji sought to repurchase shops but lacked sufficient funds. He attempted to borrow from colleagues, yet his loss of face over the concubine affair left him with no willing lenders. Watching their lives grow increasingly strained, Lu Rumei gradually shed her former coquettishness and began quarreling with Shenyanji. The childhood sweethearts had now become a bitter couple. Later, Lu Rumei sought to use her dowry, only to discover the trunks mostly contained worthless paintings, calligraphy, and clothing, utterly useless. Furious yet helpless, she could only cut back on expenses, her former splendor fading away. Shenyanji, deprived of the shop's profits, gradually lost his standing in court. He missed several opportunities for promotion, spending his days gloomy and dejected, his once vibrant spirit long gone. Hearing these developments stirred not a ripple in my heart. Their fates were self-chosen, blame lay nowhere else. One day, as I was inspecting newly arrived silks at the Brocade Pavilion, a familiar figure suddenly appeared at the shop entrance. It was Shenyanji. He wore a faded, well-washed robe, his face gaunt and haggard. A few strands of white hair had even appeared at his temples, erasing any trace of his former handsomeness and authority. When he saw me, a complex mix of emotions flashed in his eyes: surprise, reluctance, and a barely perceptible hint of regret. "Qin Yan," he began, his voice hoarse. I lifted my eyes to meet his, my expression calm. "How does your lordship find time to visit my humble shop today?" He scanned the dazzling array of silks, observed the bustling customers, then looked at my own refined yet understated robes. Bitterness filled his eyes. I came to see you." "There's no need," I replied coolly. "I'm doing quite well, your lordship needn't trouble yourself. If you wish to purchase silk, my assistant will assist you. If you have no other business, I'd ask you to leave, lest you disrupt my trade." Shenyanji's face flushed alternately pale and crimson. His lips trembled as if to speak, but in the end, he said nothing. He only gave me one lingering, deep look before turning and leaving, his steps heavy with desolation. Watching his retreating figure, my heart stirred not a ripple. Some people, some things, once missed, they are lost forever, with no chance of return. By evening, I returned to the Jinxiu Manor. The setting sun cast its lingering glow across the courtyard, bathing everything in a warm golden hue. Qinghe and the others were airing freshly harvested fabrics in the yard, with Chen Tao assisting nearby. Uncle Wang and Aunt Chen tended to the flowers and plants, creating a scene of tranquil, peaceful days. I walked to the center of the courtyard and gazed at the orchid pot. Under my care, it had grown ever more lush, even blooming several delicate, elegant flowers with a subtle fragrance. I recalled my father's words to me years ago, "Qing Yan, a woman's standing in life need not depend on a man. Only with your own abilities and confidence can you live freely and at ease." Now, I had finally achieved that. Through my own hands and wisdom, I had revived the family business and thrived. I was no longer the young mistress trapped in the Marquis's mansion, enduring humiliation in silence. Instead, I was a capable businesswoman in my own right, with my own enterprise, people who treated me with genuine kindness, freedom, and dignity. Night deepened, and stars began to twinkle. Sitting in the courtyard, a cup of clear tea in hand, I gazed at the moon on the horizon, a smile of release curving my lips. Leaving the Marquis's mansion was not an ending for me, but a new beginning. For the rest of my life, with boundless horizons ahead, I, Qing Yan, will finally live as I choose. The end.